Hello, folks. Hey, we just wanted to take a second and say thank you for being a subscriber on our YouTube channel. We have some really good big plans for our YouTube channel in the future. And so a big part of that is you and your friends and people you know subscribing to it so that as our numbers go up, we have more opportunities to do some other videos and things like that. So we're really excited about it. But you guys have really been tuning in lately for our video podcast, which is it's just being able, I guess, to watch us. I don't know why people like to do that, but they do. And I think, people laugh sometimes and say they love our expressions when we're talking, when each other are talking. And I don't know if we're like, what are you saying?
Or point and say, go, you do it.
But apparently people enjoy that because our YouTube channel has been growing. And so thank you. But we wanted to give you a little bit of heads up about this week's episode because we did something a little bit different and we did an interview.
Yes, I am so excited about this interview. We got to interview a friend of mine who I have just met over the past, I'd say 8 to 10 months. I began journeying with her, and we were just doing a phone interview, so she wasn't in the studio here with us, and we don't even say her name. She requested to stay anonymous, and that is perfect. She wanted to tell her story without giving away who she was and didn't want that to be part of it at all. So we originally ran the video even though she wasn't here. And so you will hear on our interview that sometimes we even reference, like Rusty even says, if you're on YouTube, watch Heather, she's crying. But we decided not to do the video because it seemed really weird with her not being here, and we were just staring at each other while she was talking. So we decided not to use that. So you're just going to see a still picture of something about the redeemed marriage, but the audio will still be our podcast.
Yeah. And I think this is good because this way you can watch this little intro, kind of see what happened and what you're about to experience. And we didn't want it to just be like, oh, now I got to go find another platform to listen to this. So
That's right.
All you got to do is just hang out right here. And we're about to play the audio. And so you're going to get to hear the entire interview. And it is amazing. So hope you enjoy it. Yep. Peace. Hello, folks. Welcome back to the Redeemed Marriage Podcast. Rusty and Heather Bryant back with you for another episode and another week where we're going to talk about marriage, and we're super excited about this week's episode. But before we get there, we want to remind you guys, especially those that are in Florida. Actually, even if you're not in Florida, it's a great visitation, great place to visit.
And Florida's a really big state.
It is a big state. And sometimes I'm like, if you're in Florida, you should come to our...
Just hop on down.
Yeah. But we will be in Lake Placid, Florida on April the 26th.
Yep, Saturday, April 26th.
That is 2025, so I don't know when you're listening to this.
Yep.
Maybe you have already missed the one-day event, but we're going to be coming, and we're super excited. We're going to be there from 9 to 4 at the community center in Lake Placid. And we're going to be there. We'll have a 2-hour break for lunch so you can go and have a little lunch date with your spouse. But we'd love to see all of you there. It's a completely free event.
And you don't have to register or anything.
Nope, just show up. Just show up. And the great thing is that's what we're doing. We're just showing up.
Yeah, we are.
The people down there are just taking care of everything.
They just said show up.
Just
that's what we're
show
going
up.
to do.
So we hopping on a plane the day before.
Yeah, we are.
And we're going to show up, and we're going to be hanging out with all of our Florida people on Saturday, April 26th. So today, really, this is going to be neat. We've never done this before like this.
I'm so excited.
And here's the other thing. I started thinking we never do interviews.
We don't.
And some of it I think is on purpose because I do know that people they come to our podcast to listen to us. But occasionally, there's just something that's too good to pass up.
Right.
And not only that, but I know that as we get more and more into the redeemed marriage and our ministry, we will start incorporating different things like this. But
because
I started
there's so much out there, so many stories, and you're just like, God did that.
Yes, and I was trying to come. I think it may be like 5 or less out of 200 episodes.
Yep. And you know what's crazy is people comment on those to me a lot. Like somebody just this past week said, "I just listened to your episode with Penny, who is my mentor. If you haven't listened to it, please go back and do so." And they're like, "I need a Penny," you know.
Yeah.
And we had Kylie on talking about her healing story and how
we've had our boys. We had
and
of
that's
course
our most
Trey,
downloaded
Trey and
one.
Lee Morgan.
Yep.
And then Megan and Casey. And that's
it. That's
it.
literally it.
So that means what I'm trying to set up here is this is a big deal.
It's a big deal.
And this is important. Or we wouldn't even be doing it. And so here's how this came about. We have a friend, and so we're about to do an interview. So if you're watching on YouTube, which our YouTube channel's been really growing lately, which is cool. So go subscribe if you haven't done that. But we're going to you're watching us on video, but you're only going to hear the interview because she's not sitting here, and but she's on a call with us. And we're also going to do something a little bit unique because we're not going to share her name because this is her story, and so we're going to be very respectful of that. But Heather has been journeying with this friend, and you know the great thing is I don't really know the story because this has been Heather's journey, and Heather called me last week. I don't even know where it was, but after they had talked or met, and she said, "We've got to do an interview." And I was like, "Well, would she do that?" And she's like, "Yes, she would."
Well, actually, I said, "I don't know. Hold on, I'll find out."
And so we immediately started just talking about it. And so we set it up, and we're super excited. And here's what I think what we're setting up for today. You know, Heather's already said today when we were talking about that I'm usually the one that kind of helps guide things along. I don't know the story, so I'm not going to be the guide through this. But what I have heard Heather say is that there's lots of stories out there. We are pushing hope on people. We are pointing people to Jesus, and we're saying there is hope for you and for your marriage. And sometimes there's a situation where there's a massive roadblock because it's just one spouse that's doing a lot of the heavy lifting and the hard work. But what we have seen is that God is still in that story, and God is still changing hearts. And it may be that your heart is the one that is changing while you're waiting while it's in the meantime.
That's right.
And we say that a lot, in the meantime. So what do you do in the meantime? And how do you and just how do you not just survive, but how do you thrive? And how do you allow God to change you? And so I think that's kind of the message that I have been hearing when you've shared with me what's going on. And so, hey, enough of the intro.
That's right.
Welcome to our friend. Can you hear us, and are you on? Yes, I
can hear you. I am here. What a setup that was. Thank you.
Well, we are super excited to have you here. And, you know, this is one of those also where I'm just kind of like, I don't even care how long this goes.
That's right.
We're just going to talk, and we're going to have a great time. So
that's right.
Heather, take it away.
So glad that you are here, my friend. When I told Rusty that I wanted to interview on a podcast, he was like, "Let's do it." And I appreciate your willingness. I appreciate your heart. You know, just to kind of get us started here, I would love for you to tell our listeners how you happened upon reaching out to me and why, why it was just a one-on-one session. Because, you know, Rusty and I say all the time, we do marriage coaching, we do it for couples, but you were like, I'm not there. Like, this needs to be just me. So kind of tell our listeners how you came about, why you reached out to me, and where you were in your life when you reached out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So to back up a little bit,
Sure.
We went through a marriage crisis. Obviously, I think that's going to be an underlying current of anyone who comes to work with you guys. But I personally was the betrayer in my marriage, and it was about 2 years ago. But it only came to light about 9 months ago. And really, the space in between where I was just keeping this big secret, but keeping my head down, God was chasing me down, but I wasn't listening. And really, the day of the revelation, the day that everything came to light, I broke in a wonderful way now, I would say. But at the time, I've never really experienced a grief or a brokenness or a sorrow like that. And my response to seeing the devastation that my actions had caused was, what can I do? What can I do? I mean, immediately I was like looking for therapists, looking at churches, cutting out books and music and finding podcasts. And what really ended up happening is, first, I stumbled across a Focus on the Family series that had a lot of stories of hope and restoration. And then the very next thing I found was this little thing called the Redeemed Marriage Podcast, which I ended up binging. I mean, I just listened and listened and listened because there were so many parallels in the story. It was there were a lot that I had listened to that were very hopeful, but the roles were reversed, or the situation didn't have as much similarities. And I was listening to a story reflected in you guys where I was like, wow. Like I hear myself, I see myself, but I was also seeing where you were now. And it gave me a tremendous amount of hope when hope didn't exist anywhere else in my life at that point.
Wow.
And God used you guys and all of these other podcasts and even just my brokenness to quote you, Heather, to show me who I was without him.
Yeah.
I mean, I have never resonated more with a sentence because I was raised in the church. I became a Christian when I was a little girl. I accepted Christ, but in my late teen years, I walked away from that, and I did not live any kind of life glorifying to God. In the meantime, I was not in church. I was not practicing. I didn't say exactly that I wasn't a Christian, but you couldn't look at my life and tell that I was. And, I married somebody who was also raised in the church. But again, we together had no relationship to speak of with the Lord. And I had a really false sense of my own goodness. I would have to say that the enemy really used my ego against me in the past 10 years. I believed that I was too good, too kind, too compassionate, such a good wife, all of these things to ever walk into any kind of situation where I would cross the line, hurt somebody, and make any of these choices that I made. And the second that I really was faced with the reality of what I'd done, I realized that I'm not good. All of those things are a lie. And I really needed somebody to walk alongside of me as I learned what it was to fall in love with Jesus again. So after I listened to almost all of your podcast episodes and heard you talking about marriage coaching all the time, I, had brought up the idea in my house many times. I had shared episodes. I had shared, other podcasts, other videos, and he was just not there. When one person is pursuing a relationship with Jesus and the other does not have the hope associated with Jesus and goes through this kind of trauma, there's nothing to hold on to. And sometimes it can be a situation where somebody is just not ready to participate in the healing process yet. He did not leave, he stayed, and I'm very grateful, but he was not ready and isn't totally ready to put in the level of work that I was. And I'm okay with that because I'm the one that caused the issue. So I reached out to you and I said, would you just meet with me one-on-one, please? Like, do you do that? I know that's not really your thing, but I just need to talk to somebody, to journey with somebody who has been in my shoes. So that was very long-winded, which I'm sorry, I don't know that your episode's going to be 30 minutes this week because I don't know how to make things short, but I'll do my best.
We don't either.
Welcome
It's
to the
fine.
club.
It's fine.
I'm one of those that likes the longer ones, by the way. Just a vote for the longer episode.
Okay.
We hear your vote.
It's
We hear
noted.
it.
It's noted. Okay, I'm going to jump in just for a second, and I'm letting because I can't help it, and then I'm going to let Heather take over. But here's one of the things that I'm hearing you say, and especially when you're talking about our marriage coaching, we absolutely, I mean, where we just get the most joy and where we thrive in our ministry together is obviously when a couple comes to us and says, we both, and they may be at different levels, but they both come and they say, we want to work on our marriage.
Yeah.
And we love that because we love working together, and we just can really dig in with both of them. But we know that there's so many people out there that only one spouse, the other one's not on board yet, that kind of thing. And we're finding more and more that that's a crucial part of what we do. And some of that is just because we know we need to pour into these people while they're waiting. Yeah. Because they're ready. And so for people out there that are like, oh, I didn't know y'all did that.
That's right.
Then here's what I have to say. Heather talks about Penny all the time. And Penny, we joke and say it's going to be God and Jesus on one side and Penny on the other when we get to heaven. But that's just how we feel about Heather's mentor. But I want people to hear me say that Heather has taken, she has been discipled in a correct way by Penny. And she's sort of taken that baton now, and she's doing the same thing for other women. And so I'm saying this from the person that she hurt and betrayed more than anyone. I mean, it was me that was the I hate saying the word victim, but that I was the victim of her betrayal. But I would tell any lady out there, call Heather. And I know that you've had that experience with her, and we're trying to even find more times this summer that she can open herself up and be a little more available for that, because my summer gets really busy. But anyway, that's just my plug. You're coming from a woman's point of view. I'm coming from the betrayed husband, and I'm saying that's the lady to go and talk to. Okay, done with my commercial.
I agree.
Well, I was going to say, first of all, I don't know how you expect me to take over after that, because now I'm a little teary.
You're good.
Okay, so now we know how you kind of got to us or got to me, and we have been journeying together for several months, and this has not always been easy. You've had some really, really hard times, and wondering, gosh, is this what God's calling me to? Talk to us and tell me a little bit about just kind of your thoughts about how your journey has been going and how Jesus has called you to go a certain way in your journey.
Yeah. Well, I have to say that when I started this journey, I could never have begun to guess where the Lord would take me, because really there's a lot of things in my personality that push back naturally against some parts of the healing journey, which is, for example, when someone's not ready, you can't do anything to change them. Yeah. My personality does not like that. I have always been a fixer, a controller, and a changer. If someone needs something, I'm just going to get in there and do it for them. And that does not work in this situation. So I think the very first thing that I can remember you saying after I told you my story was, you can only control you. And you guys say that on the podcast a lot too, but I needed someone to speak that directly to me, because I was working on myself, but I also really, really wanted to push it. I wanted there to be a timeline and a goal, and like, this is what I should be seeing at this many months, and this is what we should be seeing next year. And that's just not how healing goes. And it was so good for me to be forced to focus only on myself. And Heather, you recommended this incredible book, How to Save Your Marriage Alone.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the first in a really many books after that really helped me take a step back and completely focus on myself, take all of the pressure off of the situation, any demands for like, we need to be going to counseling together, or, we need to be having these specific conversations. It took all of that off the table. And instead, every single thing was, how can I grow closer to Jesus? How can I be the wife that I am called to be? How can I be, I read the book Love and Respect recently, so that's fresh in my mind. How can I be a little bit more respectful in my tone and the way I approach things? Because I always thought I was a very respectful person, but it turns out that a lot of the way that I speak doesn't come off so respectfully. And in the modern age, women can really push back on, me included, on words like respect and submission. They're very hot button words. But really, it was learning that the way that his mind works and the way that my mind works, there was a clash there in our communication. And by me just stepping back and completely focusing on myself, I have learned a totally new form of communication that in recent months has actually seemed to start to move the needle without me having to do any forcing or pushing or changing.
Yeah.
So that's been really, really transformative. And I've just plugged in at church, plugged in with you, and completely overhauled every single thing I'm putting into my eyes, ears, everything else.
Yeah.
So
tell us a little bit more about that, where I know that what you want is for your entire family to be in church and worshiping together, and both of you chasing after the Lord with everything that y'all have. But that's, in reality, that's not what's happening right now. So talk to me a little bit about how you had to just come to grips with, right now, I'm the only one fighting for this, and I'm going to do it well, and I'm going to do it to the glory of God.
yeah, well, it at first, church was even a little bit of an issue, kind of the way that you talked about with the gym. After a betrayal, there's all kinds of places that feel like scary places where there's strangers out there. You don't know who people are going to meet. So originally there was pushback about me even going to church.
Yeah.
And so I completely respected that. And I just did church online every single week. And I kept praying about it and, praying like, at some point, Lord softened his heart, so he's okay with me being around a community of people. When he was finally, that prayer was answered and he became okay with it, then I started going to church. And then I actually asked the church to develop a women's only small group for a study that we were doing specifically so that I could go to a small group on Thursday nights without, being disrespectful, and, pushing any boundaries. And so my only tool has been really radical and intentional prayer, which I grew up in the church, but I did not learn how to pray the way that I have learned how to pray now. I have realized, and one of the books that I've been reading is The Power of a Praying Wife, which has been so transformational. But I've just learned that when I am taking things to the Lord every single morning in a very detailed way, I have seen him overflow into my life. Yeah. My daughter started going to church with me by choice. She is a teenager. She's never been in the church. I've never had her go to church. And so she went, and then she started bringing a friend, and that friend started bringing her sister. And so, the prayers you can see them working in real time, even though this is the hardest season of my life, the most broken, the most sorrowful. Everything that I am seeing come out of it, all of these answers to prayer and all of this change in all of these people's lives because of my mistakes, is just like such a testament to the power of how Jesus uses us in our mess. And I'm very grateful for that. And I know that even though my husband is not ready to come to church, not really interested in a personal relationship with Jesus at this point, I can tell that he is appreciating what he's seeing. He makes comments where it's clear that there is differences in the way that I'm moving through the world that he sees. And for me right now, that's enough, because I believe that Jesus has a plan for his life. And I'm just going to keep praying for it. And, I know that you pray for us as well. And I know that there's so much power in multiple people praying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did that answer your question? I feel like I
Yes.
might have taken that on a tangent.
No,
Okay.
it answered my
Hey,
question.
since you're really into absorbing lots of stuff right now, I'm gonna throw out. I just listened this week to Levi Lusko's sermon from this past week about intercessory prayer, and
Oh,
it's fantastic. So for
that
those,
is perfect.
yeah, so those of you who might be listening, it'll stretch your thinking. It's very deep. It stretches the way that, I mean, I say very deep. He speaks in a way that never
Yeah.
feels deep.
He doesn't ever make me feel dumb.
Right. But it is so good, and I don't have it right in front of me as far as what the name of it is. But we're recording this on April the 3rd-ish, 4th-ish, 4th. It's a 5th, April 5th. So it would have been last Sunday, whatever Sunday that
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
But anyway, just if anybody
I
needs
think
to
it
go
was
and
the
look
30th,
for it.
March 30th.
Hey, can I jump in real quick and say this? One of the things that is so clear, and I know I haven't had a chance to, it's funny because you'll say things and Heather, I'll look over and I'll see Heather just smile, just grinning from ear to ear. And I feel the same way. But here's what I'm picking up on. The amount of joy in your life right now, it is contagious and it's overflowing. And it's very clear just in talking to you. And what's so fascinating about that, and you just touched on it a little bit in what you were saying, but what's so fascinating is that technically this should be the darkest season of your life. I mean, there has to be at times, and I know this because I've journeyed with Heather through it. There's shame and guilt, and that's real. That it's there.
Yes.
So there is shame and guilt, and then there's just this. Well, things are not working out perfectly like they're supposed to because here I am going 90-0, ready to work on my marriage and have the greatest marriage ever, and my husband's not on board. So like that really stinks. And then just all of this would be such an excuse and a reason to just not be in a good place. And not only are you not just you're in a good place, but you are just overflowing with joy, and because of that, your daughter's picking up on it. Her friends are picking up on it. People in your church are picking up on it. Even your husband's picking up on it. And I mean, I don't really know what kind of answer I'm looking for, except my question is, how in the world? Because there's so many people out there that are in your shoes. They've walked the shoes that Heather's walked. They're walking in yours, and they just see there's no reason for
destruction.
Yeah,
there's all they see.
Yeah, because and I think such a big part of it is it's not right now for you in your marriage. There's not this big happy ending like me and
There's
Heather.
no red bow.
Yeah, that's right.
Yet.
It's like, well, we want to just tie it up into a bow and be like, here it is. This now I have this gift that we can share with the world. But you're not there, and there's a lot of people that aren't there, but you're still just full of joy.
Yeah.
Tell me.
I want you to answer that question, but not only that, but they hear our story 13 years out. When we started our podcast, this was 11 years out, 12 years out. And I mean, she's months from out. And that,
not even a full year.
Yeah. And that's what, like, so many people are like, once I get there, I'll have joy. But she is still, I mean, I can go back and say I had joy 6 months out or 8 months out, 10 months out, whatever. But you're hearing from my friend who is literally less than a year with all of these things going on, and tell us how you have this joy.
Yeah, because some of it I just think, I'm thinking about how we were journeying together.
Right.
So that did, but like this is, I don't know, this is a huge, powerful testimony.
That's right.
So I'm going to let you just talk for a second.
Well, first of all, let me say that this is not me. I cannot take credit for any of this because, at the at the beginning, I had hope, but I sure had not found that joy yet. It was very, very heavy. I mean, just the physical response of my body, of just high heart rate, not sleeping at night, not being able to eat. Like, I had a very physical response to the brokenness. And Heather has seen me sometimes just absolutely defeated. But what I have learned how to do throughout this process, and it has taken work. It has taken being in the Word every single morning, being in prayer every single morning. Like, those things are non-negotiables in my life. And I have learned how to take thoughts captive and replace them with truth, because realistically, if I look at the things that have happened in my life, the way that prayers have been answered, and I focus on those things, I cannot help but have joy. If I let the enemy in, even just for a second, he will try to snatch that away so fast. I was telling somebody my story yesterday, actually. I don't do that a lot, but it came up naturally and it felt like the right time. So I was talking with this friend and I told her, I said, it is unbelievable to me the amount of peace that I have been able to feel in the most unpeaceful of circumstances. And it is only because when I have those moments where the devastation wants to take over me, I immediately turn those things over to the Lord. I mean, I stop in that moment and I pray in that moment, Lord, I can feel the enemy trying to use this as a divide, trying to use this as a way to take my attitude back to the place that it was when I walked into my affair. I take this, Lord, like, take this sorrow, take this despair. And I really, because I've gotten really into very detailed prayer, I will say things like, by the authority given to me by the name of Jesus Christ and the blood of Jesus Christ, I reject these thoughts. They have no place in my head. And those things have been so powerful and so helpful to me to be able to speak out loud or in my head at the moment, to just have that language that I've never had in my life, to stand for my joy, to stand for my marriage, even when things are extremely hard. And it's really funny that you say that specifically with the word joy, because I would have to say just last week, my husband came home from work and he said, I heard a song on the radio today, and he listens to country radio. And he said, it reminded me of you. Let me play it for you. And he played Brandon Lake's Can't Steal My Joy. And that meant so much to me. I cried a lot. And it also shocked me because I would not expect that to have been on secular radio. So I don't know how he heard that, because I thought that was only on the Christian radio station that I listen to, that I know he doesn't listen to. But clearly, even in the eyes of somebody who is not currently walking with Jesus and does not have that hope and does not have that joy, it is still evident and visible, and nothing makes me happier. Like, that is what I want to be.
That is so good. That is so good. And I cannot help but think about the tool, not the tool, the image that we talk about often about building the wall. Your husband has built a huge wall up around his heart.
Massive.
And about, you're not going to hurt me again. And the fact, like, we've talked through lots of different responses that you've tried and at the very beginning, and none of them worked. But instead, this is the classic, you are building your own garden. You are becoming who God wants you to be. You are doing your part. And then he is the one that starts taking bricks down one by one of this wall. And just by him coming in and saying, hey, this song reminded me of you, and him saying that he sees things in you, like, he is taking maybe just one or two bricks, my friend, maybe just one or two bricks, but he's starting to take down that wall. And I love that he can see that in you, that you are being such that picture of because right now you're literally the Jesus that he sees, because he's not entertaining the church. He's not, none of that. He's not listening to music, Christian music. He's not going to church with you. He's not doing any of that. And so you're the picture. You are being the hands and feet of Jesus to him. And I just
And
think
that was my
that's,
prayer. I think I told
yeah,
you that specifically. I said, my prayer right now is just I would be the hands and feet of Jesus in my house.
that's right. That's right. And you are. So what we kind of said a while ago is that we wish that we could just say, oh, and then here's the rest of the story, and we tie it up with a big red bow, and he's coming with you to church and all that. But that's not the story right now. And so, what I
Right.
want you to tell our listeners is how you have seen, specifically how you have seen, because this is the part where when you told me your couple of stories, I came home and I was like, we have to have her. Because even in you praying for God, please don't let this blow up. Please don't let this be a thing. God is showing you, hey, I'm still in control and I'm still after your husband's heart. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I think the one story that I remember specifically that I told you was a great illustration of how God does not always answer prayers the way that we want Him to. Which this whole journey has been a lesson of that. Because, of course, I want to pray for something very specific, and I want Him to just do it the way that I see it in my head. And I think that the way that I've seen prayers be answered in kind of a roundabout way, or a way that I never expected, has been quite humbling, but also helpful as we continue to move forward. So I'll start with this story, and then if there was another one, you remind me, because
Okay.
my memory is just awful. But there was actually a situation a few weeks ago where we somehow flushed a tube of moisturizer down our toilet and it got stuck. Um, and this is normally the kind of situation that would cause a lot of friction in our house. Do we have to call a plumber? Is this going to be hundreds of dollars? Is this going to be our whole weekend spent dealing with this? And then we start bickering and going back and forth. So I am hovering over this toilet, trying everything under the sun to try to dislodge this thing, praying my face off, like, Lord, just let this tube come back up. Let it be a clear answer to prayer where I can show Him. I can say, look at this. I've been standing here praying for this, and look what God did. He just brought this moisturizer back up. And it does not happen. It does not happen. So we take a trip to Lowe's. After much research, I figured out that I could get this toilet out and come in from the underside and probably find it still stuck under there. And so we got all of the supplies that we needed. And we, actually had a really nice time at the store together. We were kind of laughing and having fun, and we weren't grumpy, and we didn't, it wasn't the normal thing that would have happened in this kind of situation. And then we got home, and the bathroom in our room is tiny. There's not room for two people. And I had done all the research. So he helped me lay that thing on its side once we got it disconnected. But I, on my own, got in there, figured out where it was, dislodged it, remounted it on a new wax seal. For anyone who's never replaced a toilet, that's a thing you have to have. And then I sealed the edge back down to the floor. And when I was done, I came out of the bathroom and I looked at him with the biggest smile on my face, and he looked at me with the biggest smile on his face, and he was like, that was very impressive. And clearly he found the fact that I just did all that by myself really attractive. And I felt amazing.
Yeah.
I felt so amazing that I had just accomplished that. And I realized, like, wow, I could do anything. And I stood there for a few minutes kind of in shock, because I was like, God, if you had answered that prayer the way that I wanted you to answer that prayer, we would not be here right now. We would not have had this really nice moment. That we have not had a moment like that in a while, where I've seen Him look at me with kind of admiration in His eyes. And I really enjoyed that. And also just the pride of accomplishment that I have right now, knowing that I can do this, is so much better than if that thing had just come right back up the toilet. And it kind of led to something else, which is, as he went off to night shift the rest of the week, I was able to spend the next week fixing a washing machine in the basement that he had given me years ago that was broken and sitting down there. And we had replaced it with a nasty, tiny, old washing machine that we both hated. And I spent every night for an entire week trying different fixes and they were not easy fixes. And on the last night, I was able to get that washing machine working, and I was able to take him downstairs and be like, look at that, look, I fixed our washing machine, the one that you got me, the one that we like, the one that's bigger, nicer, all the things. And it was just another thing that happened that was really positive for us, really impressive to him, that never would have happened if my original prayer had been answered the way that I thought it should.
Mm.
And
That
these
is
are just little things. You know, there's much bigger things in our marriage that I feel like have been answered,
what a
but these to
great.
me really illustrate it.
Yeah.
That's
Because that was that
such
washing
a-
machine. That was the second story, by the way.
What a
But that
great
was
story.
the
Okay.
washing machine that was he gave you. The other one was crappy,
Yes.
and y'all didn't want it. But he gave
We
you
didn't.
that washing machine, and you fixed it, and it was almost like a symbol of this
Yes.
was broken, but I'm working my tail off. And I
Yes.
fixed this thing, and he admired it. It made him fall, even if it's just a little bit. He fell more in love with you during that. And if that freaking moisturizer had popped out, none of that would have happened. If God had answered your
Yes.
prayer the way you wanted it answered, that wouldn't have happened.
Those are such great
Yes.
stories. And I have heard that plumbers make a lot of money. so-
Maybe you should just get a new job. I know, I'm sitting here
I know.
going, gosh, I wish you lived close to us because I have some
we
things
got
you could
quite
fix.
a few things that need fixing around here.
You know, you can learn anything on YouTube, it turns out. I'm just saying.
It's true. It's
Those
true.
are such good stories. And like you talking about how God doesn't always answer our prayers the way that we want. And I even on a big, I mean, like I believe that those little details are that important to
They
God.
matter.
I really do. And even on the bigger scales too, when and this may have even been in the Levi Lusko sermon, but the comment was made when we get to heaven one day and it's all revealed and we see the plan, that there will not be one single circumstance where we go, yeah, I wouldn't have done it that way. I mean, we're just gonna be like, oh, I get it now.
Yep.
You were right all along. All of those unanswered prayers, they were right. All of those answered prayers, they were right. The things that you did, it was perfect. And I would not have done it differently. But we don't know that here. And so we just have
Right.
to trust. We just have to trust. And that's what you're doing. But it's so great when you can then see those little signs. And it's like, I've read the book God Winks. And those little God winks that are just like, hey, I'm showing you that I'm here and that I'm faithful. Just stay with me. Just stay with me. Love it.
Yep.
Heather's crying.
Sorry.
Turn on YouTube if you're not
Oh,
on YouTube,
no.
everybody. Watch Heather cry. It's great. It's great.
Oh, my friend. I just listening to Rusty talking about that. There's so many times still 13 years later that I'm just like, why? Like, why did I have to walk that road? Why did I choose the choices and make the decisions that I made to hurt my husband, to hurt my family, to hurt my reputation, all of those things? And then it's like God says, if just this, like if just this relationship that we're talking about right now, if my story helped you and my story is helping you fall in love with Jesus and leading your family in that direction, I would do it. For a stranger 6 months ago, you were a stranger to me. And I would walk that journey again to hear this story and to hear how God is using it so powerfully in her life. So sorry, I didn't mean to lose it, but it's amazing. We
great.
say this all the time. We get so close to the people that we journey with, and some just become really dear friends. And you are you are definitely one of those, my friend. Definitely one of those.
Okay, so
Well, I feel the same way. Just to put that out there, I am not going to cry till I get off the phone.
There you go.
well, is there anything else that you would like to share? And I know you said you like the long episodes, and other people do too. And I don't care. I don't care at all. But as we start to wrap it up, though, what is it? Is there anything else that you just feel like, hey, I just want to make sure I say this before I get off?
Yeah, I would say for anybody, it can be a little demoralizing to hear stories so far down the road, but not to hear anybody that's currently walking through something. And that's because when people are walking through stuff, it's not easy to talk about. It's not easy to tell your story or to be forthcoming, especially when you are the person who has been the kind of perpetrator of the entire thing. That can be really hard. But I just want to encourage anybody who is going through this right now, write down those answers to prayer where you see them, because that's been a huge one for me. I've never been a faithful journaler. I've tried. I wanted to be. I wanted that to be my personality. But until this situation, I was not good at that. And I would have to say now I have a pretty diligent habit of writing down, especially the prayers and when I see them answered, because to be able to flip back and look at those things is such a powerful way to battle the enemy when those dark thoughts come, because they will keep coming. And if you can pull from that list of those answers to prayer, that is your, whatever is right, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is good and praiseworthy, that's what that list is for you. And that will be so helpful when it comes to taking thoughts captive. At least it has been for me. And I also want to echo, Heather, what you just said right now, because I am not very far out of this story. And I still battle shame and guilt on a massive, massive level. And I do know, again, that is something the enemy tries to use against me. But when I can step back and even just see the overflow into my daughter's life and her friend's life, if my choices and the pain that I caused is the reason that I'm now going to leave a legacy for my family of relationships with Jesus, then I would also walk through that again. And I'm thankful for the scars, because I like who I am right now a whole lot more than I've ever liked who I've been before.
Yeah.
And so really, no matter what happens, I know that God has a purpose for me and for our marriage and for our story. And I also, one last thing, okay, I'm not going to go crazy here, but it is important, and it has been important for me to remember not to make my marriage my idol. That is something I've really had to pull down, because if my marriage was not doing well, or if my husband was not being the husband that I thought he should be at any given point, I was a mess. And that is because I was not living with Jesus at the very top where he belongs.
That's right.
And this has been even in the recovery story. I need to remember that when things aren't healing at the speed that I want, that it does not dictate how I feel, how I behave, my attitude, any of that, because Jesus is at the top. And all that truly matters is my relationship with him. And then everything below that is an overflow. And keeping that at the forefront of my mind has been really important, because I don't think I realized how much I made my marriage into my idol or my God, or put it just too high on a pedestal. So that's something I've learned. Maybe that can help someone else.
Well, here I was, as you were talking, I was just thinking about a couple things that I wanted to wrap up with. One is that you're not, and again, you were so gracious, and thank you for being brave. And I know we're not sharing your name, and so people don't know your story necessarily, don't know who you are, and you're not at that place in your story yet where you want to be, where you want the whole world to know what's going on.
And
but
it's more than just her story too.
That's right. Yeah. But one of the things that I want our listeners to also know is this, and I'm not going to go into the details, but you have gifts and talents that you are blessing us with. And some of the things that you have been able to help us with just in our marriage ministry has
not our plumbing.
Unfortunately, not our plumbing yet. But you have these gifts and talents, and they are directly influencing marriages because you're serving and giving to us of your talents and the things that you're gifted with, and we know for a fact that we are receiving more followers and people that are learning about our ministry, and then they have the opportunity to hear the same message. And so that's just a huge thing, is just you. And I would encourage that for anybody that's listening, when you're going through these difficult times, like, find ways that you can give back and you can serve, because you have no idea. I mean, really, really and truly though, and see, I almost said your name because I love saying people's names when I talk to them, but really and truly, there's going to be an opportunity even one day when somebody in heaven's going to be like, hey, I found the redeemed marriage because of some of the stuff that you were a part of and how you were helping them. And so I don't want you to overlook that. And please know that we don't overlook that. And then the other thing I was going to say, and now I can't even remember what it was that I was going to say. Oh, I know what I was going to say. That one was important, but this is important too. I don't know. I think that there's maybe been one other episode that I've got off and thought, this is going to be one of the most listened to episodes, most downloaded episodes. And that was the one with our two boys. We got off, and I literally, we stopped the interview, and I said, this will be our most downloaded episode. And this is the only other time I've really felt like that. Most of the time we get off and we're like, gosh, who knows if that was even any good.
Use that, Lord.
We're like, do your magic, work your stuff, God, because we don't know what we just said. But I'm like, I can't wait for people. Like, I wasn't sure if this was going to come out this week, or because we've got to record 2 episodes this week because we're traveling. But I mean, I can't wait. Like, who knows? I may even stick it out there early. But
don't do that.
I won't. But I'm so excited to get it out there.
That's
so
right.
I can't thank you enough. I'm going to let Heather close us out, but I'm just so grateful.
Yeah. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
I appreciate those kind. I was gonna say that episode with your boys was one of my favorites. I listened to that thinking, oh my goodness, if my child speaks to me and about me like this someday, nothing in the world would make me happier. So I hope that we're a little late to the game, but I hope that I am building that kind of thing now just because of my own journey. So thank you for those kind words. I mean, that is extremely humbling. And I just hope that something I said today can be really helpful for somebody else. And it has been such a gift to serve you guys in the way that I have. I am grateful to be able to use my gifts for something that I think is so important. What you are doing is changing lives. I know for a fact because it's changed mine. So you guys, thank you so much.
You are precious. We cannot thank you enough for being on here today. Like Rusty said, it just makes me laugh that it's definitely going to be the one of the most downloaded episodes, because there's so many people who are where you are. Either they're fighting alone for their marriage, or they're very, very, very early on. And what I love most about today is that you are another example of the story that I talk about all the time in Luke 7, where Jesus says, those who have been forgiven much love much. And you have been forgiven much. And you are taking that, and you're loving your family, you're loving your husband, you're loving other people, you're loving Jesus most importantly, and you're loving him much. And I'm exceedingly proud of you, my friend.
Thank you so much. Those were beautifully, beautifully put.
All right. Well, we are going to sign off. And so, hey, if you want to even join us, you can say what we always say to sign off too. But here we go. We'll see you next time. Peace.